I am back, I said to no one. He answered, Who art thou, and when were thou gone? Spengler said the Prussian is a socialist, the Anglo is a pirate, and the French, well, he's French. What means he is an anarchist. The Germans must kill the pirate and the anarchist in themselves to reign supreme. But is that really the case? If they did that, they still were beaten. On the ocean from the pirates and on the land from the anarchists. The rats, that is. They might have had knights, but they were beaten by the bayonet. So how do we rise again? First the French stopped us, then the Russians. Next time, definitely, we will win. But the men talk of service to serve one's country, but serves the country you? The men talk of riches, but what can we buy from it? The men talk of God, but will not want to walk the way to all. Maybe the Germans should not have neglected one for the other, but should have become all. There is still time for that, but there is also time for the rest of the kindred tribes. Man may show himself in a certain type, but he should never forget his base. He should never forget to be flexible enough to be all of them. So the warrior ideal in the Western man, or Wotan in various forms, you could say. All warriors seek power and honor. That is their path. They fight and hunt for their blood, for woman and gold, but the warrior is just the material, raw and without form. He shows his character through the place he comes from and through the word that has burned into his soul. The knight and his horse seek the steppe, need the plain to be what they are. The Viking needs a ship and the harbor from which he can roam the coast across the sea. The wanderer needs his path and his spear, so that he can find his way through forests and mountains. No one can lack power and victory to survive. Nevertheless, their goals are different as the country they come from. A pirate, reaver, or brigand is no less a robber than the other. He just has a different form and a different goal than its relatives. The lion, the tiger, and the leopard are all panthers, yet they all have a different way of life, a different kind of niche they fill. A knight can become a wanderer and a Viking again if his situation changes, yet cultural and rough patterns show up in the souls of groups of people who come from other regions, even though they are of the same kind. Wolves on the coast learn to swim, wolves in the mountains learn to lurk, and wolves in the steppes learn to run. It does not make them any less wolves, however, just because they run with the guard dogs. The perfect warrior combines all three in himself and can only thus become a king. Conquering, exploring, and having adventures are essential the same thing, only the effect is different. The Western man must combine all in himself, the knight, the Viking, and the barbarian, to become whole. So let's see those two types, former defined and one added from me. First, the paladin, the knight, the Steppenwolf. In the Homeric myths shown from Hector, the tamer of horses. His aim is Ilion, Troy. It is his castle and his house that characterizes him. He fights for blood and soil, for fief and conquest. He needs the plains. He is a rider, a herder, a knight, a robber baron, a prince, and a servant at the same time. His fame is the recognition of his master and country. He fights for a fief. His honor is loyalty. His virtue is service. His goal, his immortality, is to die for his home. The knight must breed horses to train for war and have the equipment, all of which is only possible through cooperation. He is both master and servant, he is knight and squire, a free man and a servant. Rules and hierarchies are of the utmost importance to him. He speaks in grammar. He kills for land. He shows himself as a vampire, as an ogre, as a paladin. His god is Freyr. He wants to be holy, and his virtue is fides, loyalty. Second, the magician, the Viking, the sea wolf. In the Homeric hymns it is Odysseus, the cunning. His aim is Ithaca, with ship and sail. He fights for blood and booty, trade and discovery. He needs the coast, sailors and fishermen, traders and pirates, plunderers and the plundered. His fame is the wealth of women and gold he can obtain. He fights for loot, his honor is his manliness, his virtue is success. His goal, his immortality, is to be sung in the word of man. The Viking must sail to distant places, he must coordinate himself through watery wastes. Everything depends on his skills and luck. Word and success are of the utmost importance to him, even if he cannot read and write. He speaks in rhetoric. He kills for riches. He shows himself as a vampire, a sorcerer, and a wizard. His god is Thor. He wants to be lucky. Luck is important. And his virtus is virtus himself, his potence. Now we came to the third, the one I will add. It is the berserker, the wanderer, Beowulf, the wolf of the mountains. In the Homeric hymns, Achilles, the swift-footed, is the closest characteristic. His goal is Elysium, immortality itself. He needs a lance and a cloak. He fights for blood and honor, wandering and adventure. He needs the mountains. He is a hunter and a gatherer, a champion and a brigand, a warrior and a saint. His fame and his splendor for God and his ancestor. He fights for freedom. His honor is duty. His goal, his immortality, is a glorious shining death in the face of his ancestors. The wanderer is looking for a great hunt and himself in it. He lives in a dark world where only he himself can shine and gleam. He cannot hold or win much, he is naked. Truth and courage, ethics, are most important to him. He speaks poetically. He kills to survive. He shows himself as a vampire, as a werewolf, and a berserker, an animal warrior. His god is Woden. He seeks glory, and his virtus is pietas. These three groups are often found, or can be found, in stories or in also fantasy stories and in peoples. The paladin is found in the Silmarillion, in Tuor Gondolorion, the Son of War, fights in Gondolin, or someone like Elric of Melibone. As mentioned, Hector, the Tamer of Horses, or Sigurd, Fafnir's murder. The peoples like the Trojans, the Romans, the Macedons, the Scythians, the Iranians, the Alans and the Franks, but also the Cossacks, the Hussars and the cowboys of this type. The Viking is in the Silmarillion Beren Echamion, or someone like Cain, the Red Corsair. In the Homeric hymns, as mentioned, Odysseus the Cunning, or someone like Ragnar. As peoples, it's the sea peoples, yes, and maybe our old enemy, the Punics, the Varangians, the Normans, the Rus, but also the Buccaneers, the Corsairs, the Uskorks, and the Yankee gold rushers. The Berserker is someone like Turin Turambar, Conan the Cimmerian, as mentioned before, Achilles, the swift-footed, or Beowulf, the Geat. Peoples are all barbarians that ever wandered from the north, the Nervians, the Samnites, the Swiss Guard, also the Hidalgos, the Haiduks, and the Scottish Highlanders, and the frontier trappers. But also the people you can find it in groups or in cultural groups. For the Greeks it will be the Dorians, the Ionians, and the Aetolians. The Romans, in their origins, it would be the Ramnes, the Latins, and the Sabines. For the Germanics, you could say the Ichtiones, the Inguiones, and the Hermiones. And for the West, it would be the German, the Latin, and the Slav. They're always three. They always come in the group of three. Well, the wolf may change his fur for the seasons that he is in, but he will never change his mind. What does that now mean for us? If a man fights, he should fight for what fights for him. If he gains riches, he should be the one who spends them. If he thinks about God, he should follow him. Be not weary of dark clouds that gather, be not worried about the cold rain that comes. Be weird, waiting for war, and be a warrior even if thou not can be to have a glimpse of Valhalla. Our glory is not found in Elysium, our service is not for Ilion, and we do not seek Ithaca. Our gravitas is in our fides virtus in pietas, that is our glory. And our soil will build on the riches we gain, the glory we find ourselves in will be the short burning of our souls in complete darkness. That is what is important. That is what is our gift, that we shall shine one time in our splendor, that the gods shall envy us, and our ancestors shall see us with joy of tears, and our enemies shall shaken in fear for all eternity, if they even think about who we were. God is war, and we are his child. The wolf may turn grey, his eyes blurred, and feet missteps, but he never is too old for a last hunt. I will go, I said to no one, and he answered, Who art thou? Weird that I am gone. Reaver, rider, robber, wanderer, Viking and knight, all dance as warriors, all live and die, all dance in war.